Hi everyone, welcome to another Stitches and Scribbles video. I wanted to take a minute today to show you how I am setting up my temperature blanket for 2021. I have never done a temperature blanket before. This is my first attempt in doing one and I'm really excited to do it. I don't know about you guys, but I needed some joy and consistency to start off 2021, so I figured that this was a perfect project to do it, and let's get started. As you know at this point, I really love bullet journaling, so of course I knew that when I wanted to do a temperature blanket, I was going to have to set up a bullet journal page to keep track of it all. This also ended up being really useful for me to keep track of all of the information needed to make the blanket in case I wanted to do it again. So first off, I'm going to talk about the yarn I'm using, and I'll show it at the end of the video, but I made sure to write the yarn name and where I got it from at the bottom of my chart. I am using I Love This Yarn from Hobby Lobby. Even though Hobby Lobby is not necessarily my favorite place to purchase yarn, they do win in terms of consistency. They have pretty much the same collection all the time with a couple of specialty items. So I knew that if I ran out of a color at some point during the year, I could easily go back and get a replacement skein. When I bought the yarn to start off with, I just got one skein of each color I was using, because I'm not sure how much of each skein I'm going to end up using because I can't predict the temperatures for the whole year. So I am using I Love This Yarn from Hobby Lobby. Then I set up my temperature range. So I have my temperature range split in chunks of 10 degrees, which gave me 10 different colors. I live in a place where I get a pretty wide temperature range. So at the bottom, my lowest color is 14 degrees and below, and my highest one is 95 and above. I am anticipating not using the colors on the ends as much as colors in the middle, but since those temperatures do exist for where I live, I included them anyways. And I figured if I don't use very much of those two colors, I can use those as a border when the blanket is complete. Then I assigned a marker color for each of those colors. It doesn't completely match the color of the yarn because there were a couple yarn colors where my marker color didn't match, or I wanted the marker color to look different enough on paper from other marker colors that I could tell the difference in my chart. So I decided on 10 marker colors, and then I wrote the color name and number from the yarn label next to it, so that if I run out of a color, I know the color name even if I have lost the paper band that goes around the yarn skein. Then on this side, I have a calendar set up. So I have 1 through 31 going one way, and I have the initials for the month going the other way. For each day, I am doing a dot from my color coding system, and then I cross off the dot when I have actually made the row. The reason why I set it up this way is because if I'm ever in a position where maybe I'm traveling or don't have time to work on the blanket every single day, I can put in the dot to log the temperature and then just cross off the dots when I have time to sit down and actually work on it. So that's why I set up that system. You can see that right now all my dots are almost the same color except for one that's in that forest green at the bottom. The rest are the antique teal. So right now my temperature blanket is a little boring looking, but that's to be expected so early in the process. As far as other information I made sure to include in this page, I wrote the hook size I was using, which is a 4mm. I wrote the name of the stitch I was using, which is the linen stitch, which I can show you on my actual blanket in just a second. I made sure to write down my location in case I move so that I know where this blanket was made and specifically what city these temperatures went with, and how many stitches I chained. I chained 300 stitches because I wanted a pretty wide blanket and I knew I was going to have 365 rows, so that's going to give me a slightly rectangular blanket shape. So that's it for the bullet journal side of things. Now I'll go ahead and show you the blanket itself. So because at the time of filming this, it is only January 7th, I kind of just have a long noodle for a blanket. But you can see that I have 6 rows of that antique teal and 1 row of the forest, which I will use to show you the stitch pattern. So the linen stitch is really easy. It's great for a beginner, but I liked it because it made a really dense kind of woven looking fabric. I'll hold that up really close. But the stitches kind of overlap with the rows below them so that they're not quite solid stripe. So if you had a row by itself, it would actually end up making dots, which I thought was really cool for a blanket that was going to switch colors fairly frequently. So to do the linen stitch, you start with a slip stitch on the end just to make sure that the side looks nice, and then do a single crochet in that first stitch. Now we're alternating between single crocheting in gaps and doing a slip stitch. So this is a gap, so I'm going to do a single crochet and then slip stitch, single crochet, slip stitch, single crochet, and so on. And you would continue that all the way across the blanket, which is going to give it this really cool woven effect. I'm going to undo that row that I just did because I don't know if that's the color I'll be using tomorrow or not. So that's what the blanket looks like so far. I'll go ahead and show you my colors in order. So my 14 and below color is soft blue, which looks like this. It's a really pale pastel blue. I obviously haven't used this color yet, but I liked the really icy tones in it for the really cold temperature. My 15 to 24 range color is this color, which is called Royal, and it's very clearly a royal blue. This is the color that I originally used for my swatch, which is why there's a lot of yarn barf pulled out of it. That's from doing my swatch, which if you saw my TikTok video for setting up temperature blanket, you would have seen that swatch when I first made it. My third color, which is the one that I have been working with primarily up till this point, is Antique Teal, which is just a really deep blue-green color. I think this might actually be my favorite color in the set, so I'm glad that I'm using it a lot. Probably this one and the Forest are my two favorite colors because I love deep greens and teals. My 35 to 44 degree range is the color that I just used today, and this is the Forest Green. So it's a really deep green, but not with a really heavy blue tone in it. It's definitely a true green, not a teal. My next color is mid green, and this is one where the marker color really did not match the yarn color itself. So this is what the mid green looks like. It's more of a sage green, but I did not have a Stabilo marker that color, and my Stabilos are the ones that I carry with me everywhere. So that is why this one looks very different from the color on there. But I liked this kind of spring sage green. The next one for 55 to 64 is the color Menthe, which is mint in French. So really pale pastel green. Up next is Antique White, and this is one where I had to use gray for the marker because I needed the dot to actually show up on paper. So this is the Antique White. It's a very cool toned white. Based on the name, I would have thought it was cream, but it's definitely a pure white, very icy, snowy, cool toned. Getting into warmer temperatures, 75 to 84 is Key Lime. I kept all of my neons or like brighter colors for the really warm months because those will be kind of the center of the blanket. So there's my Key Lime. Turquoise is for 85 to 94. Really nice, bright, vibrant turquoise color. It's actually the same color as those sticky notes. And finally, for 95 degrees and up, I have Peacock. This is another one where the marker looks more of just a light blue on paper, and it's definitely a teal, vibrant teal color. So that's my bullet journal and temperature blanket setup. For now, I'm just keeping everything in a bag, but I anticipate outgrowing that at some point as the blanket gets bigger. But I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it inspires you to start your own blanket. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!